Today's program is sponsored by Edison International and the LA County Library Foundation, and we'd like to thank them for their support. They are also sponsoring other programs, both virtual and in person, at our library locations, and we hope you can join us. Visit the events page on our website, lacountylibrary.org, for additional information. So today's program is part of a series of programs featuring Themed Entertainment Association Masters of Their Craft, which recognizes exceptional individuals who have made a lasting impact in the themed entertainment industry, shaping experiences that delight and inspire worldwide. We are honored to have 4 amazing masters today to share stories and insights from their careers in themed entertainment. So, to start us off, I would like to present Chris Conti, a master in audiovisual technology design, who will introduce us to today's topic and to our awesome panelists. Chris?
Oh, thank you. So today we're going to review the types of jobs and skills behind themed entertainment. We're also going to explore how STEAM elements are used to create immersive theme park experiences, and perhaps a few more other types of experiences. So, what does it take to work in themed entertainment? Who's involved? What kind of skills are needed to imagine, to design, and to build these immersive experiences? So I would argue that it's a unique talent that has emerged in response of specific industry demands, as well as the same kind of skills you might find in commercial markets or traditional creative industries. Traditional skills like architects, engineers, scriptwriters, graphic designers, painters, accountants, these are all perfect skills and disciplines that fit right in themed entertainment. But there's also a few unique skills, things like experience designer, concept artists, illustrators, ride engineers, or water technologists. What is a water technologist, for God's sake? Rock sculptors, show action equipment. These are all skills and disciplines that were really born out of the theme park industry. We're not just working in theme parks. We're working in special venues, like the Sphere in Las Vegas. We're working in World's Fairs. There's one going on right now in Osaka. Theme resorts all over the world, and a lot of independent visitor centers and experiences like the Illuminarium. I like to categorize these disciplines into 3 buckets. It makes sense to me this way. There's the creative visionaries, the writers, the directors, the concept artists, and illustrators. Often master planners and architects are coming up with these experiences. And the experienced designers, that's a unique trade right there. They create the vision that moves it forward to the people who actually do the detailed design and document it, the designers and engineers. Again, scriptwriters putting word to paper, show set designers, art direction designers, technical designers. These are all people who actually document it and create drawings and specifications to move forward. And then, of course, it has to be built. There's the builders and artisans. And I'd argue that all construction trades are part of this group. But then you have scenic fabricators, technologists for AV and lighting, ride engineers and manufacturers, and then fabricators for things like special effects and show action equipment, mirrorless and set decorators for sure. And then, of course, we have to wrap it up with what we call show control and programming. The industry has been incredibly busy. Everyone's aware of the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. This is an incredible immersive environment. In fact, when you're standing at this spot, you really cannot see the rest of the world. All you see is the Star Wars world. Universal just opened up their Epic Universe, an incredible, well-done immersive environment again. SeaWorld had their new facility open up in Abu Dhabi a couple of years ago. And one of my personal favorites is Puy du Fou in France. They're always up to something interesting, creating immersive attractions and lands and villages. And then there's the independent, smaller companies like Meow Wolf doing some pretty great work on the immersive environments. Cosm just opened up a series of facilities. They're very much like the Sphere with cylinder domes. And it's just been busy all the way around. It's pretty impressive. So what does it take really to work in themed entertainment industry? Well, aside from an education that aligns with the STEAM elements, my advice would be build strong relationships and, more importantly, build a good and solid reputation. Attend industry events and network. Don't be afraid to introduce yourself to people. You'd be pleasantly surprised how friendly everybody is. So make friends, I mean real friends, and socialize. Use social media to become familiar with every company that does the type of work you want to do. In other words, know your industry. And most of all, be humble, be modest, and of course, be hardworking. So our agenda today, I'm going to do some introductions of the panel. We're going to have a conversation with our panelists. We're going to open it up to the audience for further questions, and then we'll wrap up and do some final thoughts. And as Christy said, you can type your questions in the chat window. And then, so we'll take questions. Let's move on here. So my name is Chris Conti with Electrosonic. We're an audio, video, and control systems designer and builder. And my current role is an executive consultant. What that means is I work at the front end of projects, and I work with the visionaries, and I try to interpret their creative design and then set the technical direction moving forward with audio, video, and control. I also do a little bit of sales and business development, and I work on building strong relationships with our clients. And I like to say, I don't really sell technology, I sell trust. And so let's introduce our panelists. Catherine Jean is one of the industry's most cherished art directors, creative director, and a color specialist. A native to Los Angeles, Catherine found herself working on the largest theme park projects for Universal, Disney, and many other independent parks. Catherine eventually took a larger role as a creative director and recently completed her work on the Universal's Epic Universe in Orlando. In 2021, she was recognized by the TEA as a master of her craft in art direction and creative direction. And we welcome Catherine to the panel.
Thank you.
Wayne Hunt started a career starting with Disney Epcot Center project in 1972. Wayne Hunt enjoyed a successful career as a skilled and creative graphic designer. Living in Los Angeles, he founded his own graphic company, Hunt Design. His portfolio runs deep, having worked on over 50 theme parks projects around the world, including parks for Disney, Universal, Knott's Berry Farm, and Warner Brothers. Wayne is also a respected professor at Art Center College of Design and has been honored with numerous awards throughout his esteemed career. In 2019, Wayne was recognized by the TEA as well as a master of his craft in graphic design, and we welcome Wayne to the panel.
Thank you.
And finally, Jody McLaughlin. Armed with a degree in art history, Jody McLaughlin started her career as a set designer and set decorator for film and television. In 1987, she began her long-esteemed career with Walt Disney Imagineering, working as a set designer. Over the next several years, Jody was promoted to various management, leadership, and producerial roles. As a former executive creative producer, Jody was also responsible for the creative and strategic thinking of new concepts for Disney parks. Jody's project portfolio is truly impressive, and she has been involved in one way or another on numerous Disney projects across 8 of the 12 Disney theme parks. In 2023, she was recognized by the TEA as a master of her craft as an executive portfolio producer. We welcome Jody to the panel.
Thank you.
So, finding our way into the entertainment industry. Certainly when I was young, there was no experienced design school, no theme park ride education schools or trade schools. I think most people in the industry and the masters found their way by accident. I know certainly mine was by accident. It's really by happen chance. But let's go to Catherine. Why don't you tell us about how you found your way into the industry and maybe a little bit more about your background?
So always have been an artist, and it was definitely accidentally because as you said, there was no internship programs, or I hadn't even thought about that theme park design and construction was a career. That really wasn't in my wheelhouse. But during high school, I won a scholarship from wonderful teacher there, Jerry Nicholson, that sent a few of us up to Art Center College of Design, which was in Los Angeles, the old campus at that time. And on Saturdays, they had classes for high school students. So we went up and took life drawing classes. And eventually one of my teachers there, Fred Hope Jr., and his father worked, Fred Hope Sr. worked at WDI, or I think it was called WED at that time. And so when I graduated, I became friends with him. And when I graduated from college, he had started a company, the only animated display design company, with Roger Brokey and Jim Elliott, two senior designers from WED, the WED days, and they had formed a company, and he hired me to be one of the designers. So that's really how I got into the theme park industry, because up until that point, until I met Fred, I really didn't know it was a career to be had.
Yeah, it was a surprise to many people, and it was a pleasant surprise for sure. Wayne, let's talk about your background and how you found your way into the industry.
Well, I was always the artsy, nerdy kid growing up, and loved to draw, did lettering, typefaces, logos, but I always liked architecture. I always liked space, and I always liked museums. And I decided to become a graphic designer, which is a fairly broad term. And in one of my first graphic design jobs, lo and behold, we had Disney as a client. So we were on the consulting end, working on the original Epcot hotel projects. And it wasn't just another graphics client, it was making this one of the coolest new theme parks in the 70s. And so got to work on those hotels, and enjoyed that. And later, when I had my own company, Disney became a client along with other themed entertainment companies and museums, and it became maybe a third of our workload over the many years working in the themed entertainment industry. So I'm always been a consultant to the industry. I've never been inside. So I have a little bit of a view, never having taken a real paycheck, but being an outsider looking in, and also working in parallel industries.
Nice, nice. And Jody, let's tell your story real quick.
Well, I was actually born into it. My father was a film editor for Walt Disney Studios for many,
Oh,
many years. And I was lucky enough to get a job in the mailroom after I graduated from college, and really wanted to gravitate towards set design and set decorating. I love the idea of the sort of visual storytelling that you can do with objects. And at first wanted to get into production design for film, but that was a bit challenging at the time. And then my father had mentioned this place called WED. To Catherine's point, it used to be called WED, and now it's Walt Disney Imagineering. And I said, "What is this WED place?" And he said, "It's where Walt Disney used to always send his renegade artists to design theme parks." And I'm like, "All right, I'm down for that. How do I get a job over there?" So
nice.
cut to a few years later, after having worked in the mailroom and sort of served my time, they were hiring at Imagineering for Disneyland Paris, and my first job there was as a set designer for Pirates of the Caribbean.
Nice, nice.
Wow, beautiful, beautiful.
We all worked on Paris, right, Catherine? You work on
No, I
Paris?
didn't. I wanted to.
Yeah.
I interviewed. I really wanted
Yeah.
to, but
Yeah.
didn't get hired for
Yeah.
that.
Wayne, you've worked on, I think it was over 50 theme park attractions, and I read somewhere you said we don't make signs, we make places understandable.
Well, we use graphic design media to help establish a place. And if you think of a theme park, we also used to call it cheap buildings, expensive graphics, so that you think you're in Paris, but you're really not. And it's the same thinking you have in a theater. If you ever do set design on a stage, you give the impression of Paris. You're not making real Paris. And how's the impression made? With graphics and color and signals and logos. And if you go to a theme park, all of you who are watching this, and just count the signs and the graphics, there are hundreds. I understand in California Adventure there are 3,200 signs that contribute to the storytelling. Well, who designs those? Well, graphic designers do. So you might call it a sign, you might call it a mural, but it's a two-dimensional narrative that gives a sense of place, advances a story, and on a functional level tells you where to go and when and the safety rules. So graphic design in immersive environments is a huge part of the budget and the space. So all of you kids, next time you go to a theme park, just look at the graphics for a minute. Just
Sure.
turn around and even count them.
Yeah. I have a question for you, Catherine. You call yourself a colorist. What does that entail?
How do you learn that, by the way?
Is there a
So
colorist
color,
school?
I have always loved color, and my own little explanation is I don't see, I'm visually challenged. I have what they call soft focus vision. It just means I'm severely myopic. So everything growing up, and even to some extent now, everything's a little soft and blurry once past 10 feet. And I've always been that way. So I've never been that great of a graphic designer, Wayne, because I feel like I can't see edges and
Yeah.
shapes sharply and clearly. So I'm a little more like an
Interesting.
impressionist world is
Interesting. Yeah.
how my brain thinks and how I approach. And I think color has been extremely important to me because it's part of how I uh, perceive depth perception and edges and contrast is by color changes, and I just have a passion for it. So I've always been attracted to anything I could read or workshops or anything about color. And mind you, I'm very opinionated about color because I've taken some workshops that I thought were not very good. But still, it was still fun and it's always information that you either can take as tools, or that doesn't apply in my world. I don't need to hang on to that piece of information. I'll take these things that are useful and move on. But color is such a passionate thing, and it means, it has emotions that can change in different cultures as well. So it's just such a rich detail. But to me, it projects so much mood. So it's a very important detail for storytelling, to create an immersive world that has a very specific mood. Color becomes very important to make sure that that's paid attention to.
Yeah, you said something interesting, and maybe we'll expand on this a little bit later, but you talked about emotion. And color and texture must absolutely evoke emotions to the guests walking through it, don't you think?
Absolutely. It's all those details. I mean, you have to keep your eye certainly on the big picture, but once the main story and content is agreed upon, because everything's a little bit by committee, so it's not just one person, it's a large team working. But once the executives have approved, okay, this is the story we're going to tell, then I love to start populating it with as many layers and textures and details that immerse ourselves deeper and deeper into that story and help to tell that story and flesh it out. So to me, details are so important.
Yeah.
But you got to see the big picture first, right? You can't jump right into the details right away. You got to make sure that everything's prepared and ready as a overall picture, and then delve into the details. But absolutely, textures, colors, smells, sounds, music,
it all adds to
everything's part of it, because that's how we experience the world ourselves, moving through the world.
Right.
So when you are recreating a new world, you want to make sure you're remembering to recreate all those lovely details that stimulate our brains in real life, right? To recreate that in this new immersive world, and it becomes more and more real to people.
Yeah, well said. Jody, you have an art strain in your background, art history, but you're also set designer and set decorator. But how did you transition to producerial role?
It actually, I want to leverage a lot of what Catherine was saying and what Wayne was saying. Coming in through design, and being one discipline of many. I think at Imagineering we had about 143 different disciplines. And, coming in through the design business, I really appreciated from the inside out exactly what Catherine was saying. There are so many different layers to creating environments and placemaking. And it's color and it's music and it's texture and it's signage and it's lighting and it's just a whole myriad of things that are needed to really tell the story, to allow the guest to sort of suspend disbelief and be in that moment. And so, having grown up, with a father in the film industry, I was always a part of this world. And it's in a way, it's sort of escaping, but it's just finding art and connections, to life and to stories. So As a producer, I love the idea of taking all of these different elements and kind of wrangling them. And, as Catherine was saying, you have to understand what the big story is, right? What are you solving for? What's the North Star? And once you know that story, then as a producer, my role was to ensure that everybody around the table understood that story and knew what they were solving for and brought their levels of expertise. So I know we're going to talk about collaboration later, but that's such a huge part of it. Catherine doesn't work in a vacuum. Wayne doesn't work in a vacuum. Our lighting designer doesn't work in a vacuum. You don't work in a vacuum. So as a producer, I have to ensure that all of these tendrils are touching each other and contributing to the bigger story. And so keeping my eye on that and really kind of laying the groundwork and laying the track that helps to guide the project to get to the finished product.
Yeah, absolutely. As a technical designer, it's a sin to ask the question, how big of a screen do you want? Really, I think all of us ask the same questions, which are the right questions. What emotion are you trying to evoke when the guests walk into the space? And that's across the board. Every discipline has to kind of reach that goal because it's about emotions and not really about the physical or technical world that we're walking into. Let's talk about design charrettes. Who wants to explain what a design charrette is?
Well, who knows what the word charrette means? Do you
That's
three know
right.
the words? Who speaks French here?
Un petit peu seulement.
Well, you know what a charrette is? It's a French wheelbarrow, right?
That's where you
And
dump
the
stuff,
reason
collect
we
stuff.
the reason we use that term in our business is because at the École d'Arts in the 19th century, the students would never finish their work on time, and they'd be rolling the wheelbarrow in while they're still working on it, and that became known as a charrette. That was the final high intensity group effort to finish simpler. So our industry sort of adopted that for any multiple person high intensive problem solving session. And a lot of the work we've done over the years, all three of us and you, Chris, has had a charrette as part of the process.
Absolutely.
And the charrettes are often who can talk loudest or think fastest, and who can also be the most humble, or who can listen to a bad idea and make it better. I always loved that process. I thought those meetings were just great, painful sometimes,
Sometimes.
It's
but
one.
very,
It's very,
I like the ones where we'd like everyone involved from all the different disciplines. We'd pose certain questions and write answers on just little postcards, right? And go like stick them up under the categories so that everybody, even the
oh yeah,
more shy or less vocal people, could write down their ideas and put them up to be considered, and we could all walk around and read everybody's different ideas, and then come back and enter a new discussion that from some of the things that have been thrown out.
yeah.
But it's just a creative collaboration.
It's a messy process, and for me, that's what's really fun about it,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
that you roll up your sleeves and you dig in and hear what people have to say. There are bad ideas, there are good ideas. How do you sort of dig through all of that? So I love the messiness of it. It's sort of controlled chaos in a way, which is actually kind of fun.
yeah. It's one of the fun. It is one of the funnest stages of a project for sure. You talked about this a little bit or touched on this, Jody. Collaboration. How important is collaboration between disciplines?
I think it's absolutely critical. As I was saying before, you can't do any of these disciplines in a vacuum. You need to understand. I mean, again, back in my set design days, I had to be collaborating with the facility designer, so they weren't going to run, some kind of mechanical ducting right through my scene. So understanding everything from the building to the special effects to the media, I mean, all of that stuff, everyone has to be talking to each other. And there are a lot of tools these days that allow that, a lot of modeling tools, digital modeling tools. Back in the day, I was literally building models with my hands and an X-Acto knife and drawing with a pencil on a piece of paper called vellum. So a lot has changed since then. But I think that the technology tools that we have today really allow for collaboration. And you can see what all the other disciplines are doing and make corrections along the way. And then you get into a little, a little fight about, I want that space. No, I need that space for that. So it becomes, kind of a fight for real estate too in any of the scenes. So
Sure.
again, it's part of the fun. And again, it's messy, but at the end of the day, you will have a package that actually makes sense and that can be built. And it doesn't solve everything. You find that out in the field, as we all know, but collaboration is so critical to be able to, deliver on a design that actually is viable.
Yeah. Catherine, you must value collaboration in your world for sure.
Absolutely. And I have a very, very specific story I can tell you that happened on Epic Universe. When I first joined that team, there were some decisions that were being made that I was like, who the heck made this choice? Like, that should be our team, should be directing that. And the way that the project, because it had paused for COVID and then everybody reshuffled and they switched people around, and the construction team was really heading the project. So they told their responsible individuals, which to make decisions and make it happen and push it. So rather, they didn't even know us as the creative team. But when the vendors had a problem, they'd make a call. And this is something that's what I do, and that's what our creative team does. So sometimes they were making horrible calls. So I went out and started finding out who's on this team, or like, because it was such a big group of people.
Sure.
And then getting us together and having talks and going over, and I could see the light shine in their eyes when I started to explain, this is what this is supposed to be. Or we went, one of the vendors, the first trip I made, I got to talk, I went straight to the sculptors that were struggling with how to interpret one of our fish lanterns. I spent a half an hour explaining the concept to them and answering some questions and actually sculpting a little bit with them. And then went away. We had other meetings, we had lunch, we came back, and I actually was able to approve 3 of the heads. They had fixed them, and beautifully, because they had reached the right person to ask the right questions, where our poor responsible individuals, had with no art training, were trying to answer art questions. So anyways, that collaboration, knowing, that's another topic that came up in one of the questions you posed, written to us, is to ask questions and ask for help. If you don't know, don't try to figure it out on your own, which a lot of my early career, that's what I had to do, because there wasn't internships or mentors available to me. I often was just thrown in there and had to do the best I knew how to do.
Sure.
But these days, there's so much help that's available and so many resources. So go out and ask for some help,
Right.
and talk to the whole team, talk to the writers, to the audio designers and the engineers or the architects, to ask questions about, how is this going to work? Or I have this problem, or I need to achieve this. How could we do it? And and everybody can pool their minds and their skills, and you slowly figure it out.
One kind of collaboration that made me kind of nuts and interesting is the ground plane collaboration. You don't think of the ground plane in a theme park, but the ground plane is precious real estate. You've got the circulation, you got a landscape plan, a water plan, a sign plan, electrical plan, often a security plan, other things that are all in the same plane. Everybody is fighting for their real estate, the queue, the entrances, the marquees, and you're elbowing to get a lighting position for your marquee sign. Oh no, that's taken up by a landscape specimen. Oh, we got to move the tree 2 meters. It's a really interesting dynamic. This is highly complex environments. That's just the ground plane. You're talking about the elevations and sharing, HVAC to your sets, but the ground plane is a whole giant puzzle of multiple consultants and underground utilities and special effects and speakers, all fighting for this. If you don't realize when you go in a theme park ride what you can't see, and there is a whole world of invisible tech and planning under those things you're walking on.
Yeah, and then the audiovisual guys come in and install their speakers on top of it.
Oh yeah, that's the worst. That's the worst. Yeah. The worst is the security guys come in last and start putting up mounting
Cameras.
things.
Yeah, and have all their breakout boxes that show up in
It's
the
got to be double
landscape.
double
Like,
redundant.
what is
You gotta,
what
you
is
know,
that?
yeah.
Hey, let's talk about continuous learning. You know, we all have our trades that we went to school with and we learn our trades early on and enter this business. But for me, I got most of my education, what I know about design, working in the field. Tell me, Jody, tell me about continuous learning. And obviously you changed roles throughout your career, but how valuable is that?
Oh, it's hugely valuable. I mean, I always say I learn something new every day. Like today, I learned that charrette meant wheelbarrow. I thought
Yeah.
it meant
Well, see,
something else.
thank you. Yes.
So thank you, Wayne,
Yeah.
for my lesson for the day.
Yeah.
Um, but it's very true. I mean, I have worked and collaborated with so many um, subject matter experts, and I will never necessarily be a subject matter expert in any of these disciplines, but I learned something from them, and I learned that what's important about what they do, and you know, as a producer, how do I protect that and create space for them to be able to, you know, get their stuff in to tell, you know, their story, which is part of the bigger story. So, you know, I think just having gone through a number of different sort of career shifts, all really related. I mean, it's all part of a really a single thread. Um, you know, learning design early on in my career, taking those lessons, and I ended up leading a number of different departments. I wasn't doing project work at the time for a few years after my children came along, so it was hard for me to travel. So I learned really the importance of advocacy for people in their careers. How do you help people navigate, you know, through some of the messiness of what we do at work, you
Sure.
know, personally and professionally. So I learned that on the job, just having to lead people, and I learned to listen and to understand, and you know, what do I need to do to help them be successful as part of this team. And then getting back into producing, it really kind of melded both sides of my brain that I was using. It was understanding and appreciating the importance of good design, and understanding and appreciating the personal aspects of what we do and the challenges, and how can I be an advocate for people and for the project, and how do you balance, you know, what's best for the person, what's best for the project. So I think having to sort of shape shift a little bit is good, and having to be learning how to be flexible is also really good. And you know, you I was going along thinking I wanted to be a set designer and a set decorator for my career, and then you know, I learned more about producing. So being open, right? I mean,
Sure.
if you're an expert in something that you love, go for it. But, you know, like me, I was like, it's great and I enjoy it, but there are other aspects of theme park designing and building that also intrigued me. And so I was fortunate to be able to kind of follow my heart a little bit and going down some of those paths.
Hey, look, I got a couple questions popping up here. They're pretty interesting. Real quick, Jody, you can answer this question. How long do big theme park projects take?
Big projects, um, 7 years at least.
Yeah, 5 to 7
Especially in
years.
foreign countries, it takes probably more than that because there's so much negotiating to do. But I'd say a good 7 years minimum.
And here's another interesting one. How many people might work on something like a Small World or a Star Wars ride at Disneyland? What's the team makeup? It could be thousands.
Thousands, yeah, yeah. It's a lot. I mean, you've got all the design disciplines, you've got the operations team, you've got the leadership team, you got the negotiations team. I mean, there's so many layers of stakeholders, of participants, that it's, you know, definitely lots and lots and lots of people from all different walks of professionalism.
Here's another one that's interesting. It's really for AV. What is the smartest way you've seen AV and technical gear to be hidden inside scenic so it doesn't kill immersion? Interesting. And you know, the answer to my
My
question,
favorite topics.
get to know your art director. Make her your best friend. I mean, obviously, we can only do so much in technology, but integrating technology is absolutely key to an immersive environment. that's both forward and look backs as well. And you have to work collaboratively with the art directors and even the construction, the integration into the general construction as well, huh, Catherine?
Yeah, and I'll say, because the technology has to be there for it to sound good, look good, be lit well. But what I aim for, and what I at Disney, some of the young people I was working with, that I would when we were modeling that in BIM model, we'd put whatever new sensor or new thing that had to be added, we'd add it in, and then come back and look at the entry of each scene. And I would tell them, look, what we want to do is when you first enter a scene, to not be aware of any technology, but just take in the fantasy, right? And then in the moment, and your brain accepts that you're in this world, and then you go back to watching the show and listening to music. Now, of course, when the ride vehicle passes the piece of technology that has to be there, if you look straight at it, you're going to see it. But the idea is that you're not aware of it for the first few moments, right? So that your brain stops looking for anything like that, and you just have a good time and listen to the story, or be inspired by the story. But because the technology has got to be there, but I don't want to see it if I don't have to.
It's not about the technology, it's about the experience.
Yeah,
right?
you're coming there for the fantasy, the story, the enjoyment. So to me, if you see technology, it just yanks you right out of the fantasy.
The key from my perspective is not to make it invisible, but to make it imperceptible.
Mm-hmm.
And that means you could theme, paint, put cladding around a speaker or whatever technology in order to fit it into the theme, align with the theme. Because it's hard to completely hide technology, because speakers have to be exposed and lenses have to be exposed, things of that nature.
Yeah.
But I will say too, I mean, I've been in this business a long time, and when I ride things like Pirates of the Caribbean and in Shanghai or in Galaxy's Edge, Rise of the Resistance, I ride through that. I'm like, oh my God, how did they do this?
Yeah.
I'm still astounded, even though I probably know quite well how they did it, but I was so taken and lost in the moment. Just the magic it was overwhelming, and it was just really a wonderful feeling to be lost like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
So
Makes me happy.
these questions are really, really quite good. This one kind of leans towards us working internationally. When I do mentoring to the next generation of engineers, and especially if they're not attached yet, I absolutely say, if you have an opportunity to go work overseas, do it. Get out of your comfort zone. All of us have worked internationally.
And your comfort zone.
Yeah, so you're in your comfort zone. You've done it. What are the benefits of working internationally?
It's fun.
It is fun.
It's especially fun at first, right? No,
Well, and learning about different cultures.
Right.
It's always funny. There's always funny things that happen, and you learn as much about other people as you do yourself, right? Because you learn what rocks your boat, or what you've been taught versus what is out there in the world, and that maybe you need to open your mind to, because maybe this is more wonderful than what you were taught. So anyways, you learn so much, and it's fun to work with people from other cultures and have those funny things that happen, that when you're trying to communicate, and sometimes there's misunderstanding.
Well, you learn that decisions are made in all kinds of different ways in different cultures.
That's right. But again, it's that collaboration thing. You have to
you
collaborate.
work in Japan to get something done that's really different than working in Seoul. I mean, it's just completely different ways of making decisions and organizing a meeting. And so that's a wake-up call to us sort of arrogant Americans. Everybody's got their own style. We tend to lump the whole world in one bucket, and it's not. It's every culture is totally unique and has their own way of doing business, and own way of communicating.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Only their own way of saying no,
Mm-hmm.
which you never hear in Japan. You occasionally hear yes, but you don't get a direct no. The no comes subtly in other ways.
But
So
yes, sometimes just means, yes, I've heard you.
that's right. So I really enjoyed that, working across cultures and trying to solve problems. And yeah,
Here's an interesting one. What challenges do you usually deal with while going from place to place, country to country, to create and accept cultural differences?
Well, you know, when we were in Shanghai, we were the guests there. And so I think being very mindful and respectful of the culture and acclimating to the culture was really important for us. And you know, to your point earlier, understanding how they do business differently, how they see the world differently. And so having that perspective and that insight, I think makes us better partners and better collaborators.
Sure.
So I think, you know, that to me was key, was just really respecting it because we were the guests there for a long time.
Yeah, I think that's key, is you have to recognize you are a guest in their country.
You know, I went and got all these books on, how to bow, not put your feet up, all this stuff that you're supposed to learn about their culture. And somebody said, Wayne, I've been over there a lot. Just hold still and shut up. Just Americans just jump around and they talk too much. If you just sit still and listen, you'll be halfway there. You don't have to learn how to bow the right amount. They don't expect that. They know you're an American.
That's
So
right.
yeah, so I think people are overcompensating to learn the custom. You just want to be a good guest and be a good listener and be available to how they do things. You don't have to do it like they do, but you want to be integrated into their methodology. And I found it very interesting and usually pretty solvable.
Yeah.
Jody, how did you find as a executive producer that there is in especially in Asia, there is a little bit of an attitude about women being in a leadership role. It's not always perfectly accepted. Was there any experiences that you had that gave you new insight or
I think particularly in Shanghai, it's actually women are very respected there. And even, you know, for something like International Women's Day, they take that very seriously. And a lot of women are in leadership positions, you know, in corporations and things. So I actually found it there very welcoming, you know, in fact, probably in some cases more so than what I've experienced here in the States. Um, Japan, I didn't work there. I was sort of just more tangentially in Japan. Hong Kong, a little bit. I worked there, maybe a little bit more traditional there, but certainly Shanghai was, I found very accepting, very welcoming, and very respected there as a
It's
woman.
very
And
sophisticated there too.
yeah,
It's a really interesting city.
national
yeah.
city?
Mhm.
Here's another question from one of our guests, which is relevant for today. With AI taking over so many creative jobs, do you have advice for kids on how to prepare for jobs that are
Mm.
more AI proof,
Let,
not easily replaceable?
let me take that one.
Sure.
And now
I
I'm gonna
spent
add
I
on.
Yeah,
spent
I have something to add too.
I spent an hour and a half in an art center faculty meeting last week trying to understand the new policy on AI in the classroom. And it's complicated. And what I came away with is we have no idea where this is going. We're in the middle of a river that's rushing down a mountain and we can't see the sides. This river is going to be someplace else next month, next month. It's happening so fast, it is very hard to react to it right now. So my advice is to listen, let it flow. Maybe it'll settle out in a couple of years, but Art Center, the top design school anywhere, is grappling with what to do with this. They've got teachers that are, it's so complicated. It's not just another tool. It's not just another penknife. That's BS. It's a whole cultural shift of machine learning and we don't know where it's going. And doing design with AI is its lowest fruit. That's the easiest thing with AI. AI is going to be much more dynamic in the medical world, financial world. Design is easy for AI, and there is some trepidation about it. It can do it as good or fast as I can, but we don't know where it's going.
Yeah.
That's the art centers. We don't know.
Catherine.
So to me, it's a tool. Go out there and learn it. And it doesn't replace your creative mind. Your creativity is infinite. The only thing that stops it is your own fear that someone's going to take over it or do. No, machine cannot think like your brain can.
Well, not yet. I think it's more than a tool, Catherine.
Well,
This
yes,
is something different.
as you said, it's going to expand in many
Yeah,
ways that we might
yeah,
not even be able to predict at this
yeah,
time.
yeah,
But it's still right now, as far as a young designer, it's
yeah,
a tool. So go
yeah,
learn it, go dive in and
yeah.
figure
Good
it out
advice.
and
Yeah,
incorporate it into how you work.
you can't
But
run
it's
from it.
not going to
Yeah,
replace you.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
That's good advice. Jody.
Yeah, I think in the context of this conversation, which I think it is a tool, and I don't disagree, Wayne. I think it's way more than that. But I remember way back in the day when CAD was becoming a thing, right? We, us older folks, learned to draw by hand, and then CAD, suddenly is this new tool. And, it became at the time, people were hired that knew how to do CAD because they
sure.
were technically
Yeah,
proficient, but they didn't know anything about design. And they couldn't design their way out of a
yeah,
paper bag. And I
yeah,
really struggled with that because I was still sort of associated with the show set department.
yeah,
And there was no sense of design. And so to sort of answer the question, understand, and again, Catherine, to your point, learn it, but understand how to design, which is a trade in and of itself. And,
yeah,
if you want to be in this business, you really have to understand the importance of good design and to recognize good design, to be able to compose a scene, compose a set, to be able to compose everything that goes into that is all about really the collaboration of all these different disciplines. And that's about good design. So learn that because I don't think that that will ever go away.
yeah,
And the tools go where they go.
yeah,
And but you can't, I don't think you can just jump in and use an AI design tool without understanding what
yeah,
design actually
yeah,
means.
yeah,
Yeah. Excellent advice from all of you.
yeah.
Look, real quick, we have about 10 minutes. I want to get some more questions in, but let's get to something that's kind of fun. You've all done some great projects over the years. What's your favorite project and why
Mhm.
that you've worked on?
Um,
Catherine, real quick,
okay.
I said you said in one of your resumes, you said about Celestial Park, it's my best yet.
Is. So up until Epic Universe, I think that Shanghai Disneyland, the Treasure Cove, the whole land and attractions and restaurants, that was, I just loved that project and still love it. I mean, it's really a fabulous uh, Shanghai Disneyland, fabulous addition to Disney's portfolio. But then Epic Universe came along. The COVID came and I got laid off and from WDI, and then Epic Universe got turned back on and I got hired. And oh my gosh, it's just the most wonderful, detail rich. And what I love about I was part of Celestial Park. I was the director, creative for Celestial Park, and was able to work with my all-time favorite Dale Mason before he retired, and then I took his place. So and tried to carry the baton. And but the what I love mostly about Celestial Park, it's very art infused. There are so many details, and sculptures and murals and cast glass panels, and it's just detail rich. And it was so much fun to help collaborate and help create all of those things, and then bring them to fruition. So that's why it's my favorite.
Great. Jody, tell us a story.
Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned this before. It's like trying to say which is my favorite child.
That's easy for me.
So I have more than one answer. So Pirates of the Caribbean, my first job at Imagineering, because it was my first job there, but it was also the job on which I met my husband. He was a model builder at the time, and I was doing set design, and we were collaborating, and he, taught me how to work the copier to make things bigger because it was before we had computer design. So, how do you take a quarter inch of the foot and make it bigger to do a bigger scale? And it was all in the copying machine, all in the Xerox machine.
Yeah.
So that's a favorite of mine. Another one is the Monsters Inc. attraction down at California's Adventure. It was my first producing job. And so I'll always hold that dear to my heart. I learned so much in that job. We had about $1.98 to spend and, maybe 15 months to turn it around. So I learned a lot about getting things done efficiently and brilliantly. And then I think Shanghai, just because it was really kind of the the pinnacle of everything I learned and everything I loved. My husband came with me there. He was working on one of the attractions. My children came and visited during the summer. So it felt like, kind of my career had gone full circle, and having landed in Shanghai doing something that was like really hard and challenging, but so incredibly rewarding,
Wonderful.
is number three. Yeah.
And Wayne, how about yourself?
Well, I'm not going to give you a theme park, and I want to get across to the audience that this is all about museums and other places and cities and
All right.
aquariums and zoos, and immersive environments are everywhere. And I'm a big museum guy with a long portfolio of museum work. And probably my favorite project of all time is the Saturn V Center at Kennedy Space Center,
Should be our
which we did the exhibition around the world's biggest rocket, and we got to work with the astronauts in meetings. That was an experience. We went in a shed and they pulled a tarp off the spare lander for Apollo 14. It was the one that they were going to use it back. The actual lander was under a tarp and all dusty, and let us go in it. And if you go to the Space Center now, that Apollo 14 backup is the one that's up flying above the exhibit. They restored it, and that became a big exhibit artifact. So that was a great project. Just being around that, because I grew up in that space age era, and I remember the Apollo landing. So being a part of telling that story,
It's great.
that was really great.
It's a great project. Look, we have 5 minutes here, and I want to solicit your wisdom on these last three questions. And Catherine, I'll throw this one out to you. What's a bit of practical advice you would give someone starting out in this industry?
So if you're in college, look into Disney and Universal Studios. They both have an intern program. Fantastic. I would have died and gone to heaven had there been something like that when I was your age. There's such great, they're paid internships. You're not going to make a fortune, certainly, but they're actual paid internships, and you get to look around and see a lot besides whatever role you're going to play and help. You get to see so much, and maybe you start out like Jody was in set design, but then she was more and more attracted to production. So that's the kind of thing you get to see and help work on a project during the summer, and you get to see a lot of different disciplines, right? And you might see something you never knew about before, and that's the one you want, and then you can kind of redirect your college career to get you ready for that. So anyways, I would say look for an internship.
Wonderful. Wayne, this one's for you.
I don't have a good answer to that. I tell my students, and even my daughter when she was younger, to have a permanent sense of curiosity and learn about the world. I think what you find in museum designers and some theme park people, they know a little about a lot of things because they're interested, and you get to play that back. I think for a high school student who wants to be in the theme park design business, get on the theater team, get on it, design a set. I know a lot of very good theme park people who came from theater. They came from theater lighting and theater set design and became producers. So it's nerdy to be on the theater team in a high school, but it's really cool in the end. And that's a portfolio piece. If you did the sets for Molly Brown or something in high school or Chicago. So expose yourself to it, read about it. And one of my frustrations with young people is they're not curious enough. There's stuff right in front of them, and they're not noticing it. And yeah.
Jody, how about you?
I mean, I'm gonna, say everything Wayne just said and everything Catherine just said. I think that, as a producer, I didn't study theater. I studied art history. And I regret that I didn't study theater. And I can tell you, of all the designers and producers and directors that I've hired, the ones that came from theater are phenomenal.
Yeah.
And so I think, take some theater classes first and foremost, because you will learn everything. And I think, a little humility too. I started out in the mailroom and I learned a whole lot in the mailroom, including, a little bit of humility. And so I think, the curiosity, the humility, just being open to learning. And, I think theater is a great way to learn about this business because it's this microcosm, right, of a theme park. It's all right there, in this proscenium.
I always say that everybody in this business either came from theater or was an ex-musician who didn't make it.
I also join things like Next Gen, the TEA group,
Sure.
young people. Join whatever you can, that is related to what you're interested in.
This was my point earlier. Go network. Find organizations that have common goals or common threads of the businesses you want to be in, and socialize, network, make friends. It's really important.
There's
so
also
many
lots
great,
of.
I was going to say, there's so many great questions. I wish we could get to them.
Lots of conferences that happen for different industries that usually there's a student rate that you can get in a lot cheaper than professionals. And for instance, there's even a concrete, artistic concrete thing that happens in Las Vegas that I still haven't been to, but I want to go. For all these people that are doing fantastic pieces of art with concrete, and then that can be incorporated into some hardscape or a project. But there's just so much, and like both Jody and Wayne are saying, be curious, go look out there in the world, ask questions, do some research, even use AI to search for sources that you can go, and conferences and workshops that you can go try on these different roles and see what they're all about.
Yep. All right, Christy.
Hello, thank you so much. I hate to stop this conversation because we're getting so many interesting tidbits from you, hearing such informative things, and I think ending it at least on the note of staying curious and finding out more is a good jumping off point to go. So thank you everyone for being curious enough to be here today to find out more about this. I did want to note that I added a link in the chat to the Themed Entertainment Association TEA Next Gen program that I think Catherine mentioned just now in passing, which is a mentorship program that's part of this professional organization that all of our guests here today are members of. So I did want to note that I put that in there. So thank you again to Themed Entertainment Association for partnering with us on this program series. Thank you to our masters of their craft that were here today. And we hope that you're able to join us for next week's event with a TEA Master. That's on Wednesday, August 27th. And that will be designing theme park attractions. So you can visit the events page on our website, lacountylibrary.org, for more information. Thank you again to Edison International and the LA County Library Foundation for sponsoring these programs. We are placing a link in the chat to a survey that will help us plan future programs as well. And please let us know, because we'll use that information when we're looking at what to do next. So please check out our website at lacountylibrary.org for more information about upcoming programs. Follow us on social media for the latest updates. Stay safe, stay curious, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for being here. Thank you to our guests.